Picture this. You are flying over a mountain range in the Saudi Arabian desert. Not a single flake of snow in any direction. And this is where Saudi Arabia promised to build a world-class ski resort with real snow in the desert. No ski lifts, no hotels, no snow-making machines, just rock, dust, and temperatures that regularly exceed 40 degrees. And this mountain was supposed to host the 2029 Asian Winter Games. In 4 years, the slope gradient alone would challenge any engineer. Add desert heat, wind, and zero water, and you have an impossibility. That is no longer happening. And the reason why should concern every investor who believed in this project. Just hours ago, sources close to the Olympic Council of Asia confirmed what construction insiders have been warning about for over a year. The 2029 Asian Winter Games will not be held at Trojena. The venue simply does not exist, and Saudi Arabia spent years telling the world it would be ready, knowing the engineering was never proven. But here is what NEOM and the Saudi Olympic Committee desperately don't want you to discover. This was never a realistic project. It was a branding exercise disguised as a sporting venue. In this video, I will expose why building a ski resort in a desert mountain range defies basic climate science, reveal the construction timeline that was mathematically impossible from the day it was announced, and show you what the cancellation means for the entire NEOM project and Saudi Arabia's credibility on the world stage. Let's start with the geography. Trojena is located in the Tabi province of northwestern Saudi Arabia. Elevation roughly 1,500 to 2,600 meters. Average winter temperatures at that altitude hover around 0 to 10 degrees Celsius, occasionally dipping below freezing at night. Natural snowfall at Trojena is effectively zero. Alpine resorts receive 5 to 10 meters per year. Trojena receives none. Every ski resort on Earth sits in a region with natural winter. Trojena would be the first where winter doesn't exist. The region sees occasional frost in January, thin ice that vanishes within hours of sunrise. That is not a ski season. Climate scientists said even aggressive snowmaking cannot overcome desert mountain conditions. Snow making in 40-degree heat requires extraordinary energy. Water consumption alone would rival a small city, and the snow would need to survive on exposed mountain slopes in direct desert sunlight. It would melt within hours. Estimated construction cost was 500 billion Saudi riyals. Operating costs would dwarf any resort on Earth. Year-round artificial snow production would consume enough water to supply a city of 200,000. In the most water-scarce region on Earth, Saudi Arabia depends on desalination for 90% of drinking water, and they plan to divert it for snow. Here is how the Trojena fantasy unraveled year by year, while Saudi Arabia kept bidding for international events. In 2022, the Olympic Council of Asia awarded the 29 Asian Winter Games to Trojena. The sporting world was stunned. Winter sports in a country with no ski infrastructure, no ski culture, no natural snow, no venue. Promotional material showed an alpine paradise, outdoor slopes, indoor snow park, luxury hotels carved into the mountain. By 2023, engineers publicly questioned whether the build could be completed on time. Site preparation had barely begun. Access roads were still under construction themselves. The Sochi Winter Olympics required 7 years with existing infrastructure. Trojena had 4 years and nothing. The main competition venue site remained an empty mountain plateau. Survey stakes in the ground, nothing more. By 2024, satellite imagery confirmed minimal progress. Foundation work on the venue had not started. The mountain looked identical to announcement day, minor grading. Some earthworks, no buildings, no slopes. The access road alone was a massive challenge. Supply chains to a remote mountain with no infrastructure. By early 2025, not a single milestone met, 0 venues, 0 snow systems, 0 athlete housing. 4 years remained. Federations require test events 2 years prior. The venue needed to be operational by 2027. There was nothing to test, nothing to inspect, nothing to certify. International federations require venue homologation years before competition. Slopes must be tested in race conditions. You cannot certify a slope that doesn't exist. You cannot test snow where no system is installed. The Olympic Council of Asia reportedly began exploring alternative host options as early as late 2024. Japan, South Korea, and China all have existing winter sports venues that could host the games with minimal preparation. Now here is where the story becomes about something much larger than a canceled sporting event. What happens when a country bids for an international event at a venue that exists only as a promotional video? This is not just about Trojena. This is about Saudi Arabia's credibility on the international stage, and that credibility is now collapsing. The Financial Times reported that international sports consultants warned Saudi officials as early as 2023 that the timeline was unachievable. One consultant told reporters the engineering challenges were understated by an order of magnitude. But the bid went ahead anyway because Trojena was never about skiing. It was about branding. Hosting the Asian Winter Games would generate billions in free media coverage for NEOM. Every broadcast would feature the Saudi Arabian desert resort. The publicity value alone was estimated in the billions, far exceeding the cost of the bid itself. Critics call it sports washing. International events generating positive coverage for a regime facing human rights scrutiny. The games would place Saudi Arabia in living rooms worldwide. Every broadcast a commercial for Vision 2030. Billions in media value for a fraction of construction cost. If they could just build the venue, they couldn't. The problem is you actually have to build the venue, and that is where the fantasy met physics. Water supply for snowmaking requires infrastructure that doesn't exist. Piping water to 2,600 meters across desert is an engineering project unto itself. The nearest significant water source is the Red Sea desalination plants, hundreds of kilometers away. A pipeline across that distance, uphill into mountains, solely for artificial snow. The operating cost would be staggering. To be fair, Saudi Arabia has successfully built large-scale desalination infrastructure before. The kingdom leads the world in desalination capacity, and indoor ski facilities exist in Dubai and elsewhere in the Gulf. Snowmaking technology is proven in controlled environments, but there is a fundamental difference between a controlled indoor box and an exposed mountain slope in the Arabian desert. Scale, wind, solar radiation, temperature variance. An indoor facility controls every variable. An outdoor mountain controls nothing. And that is the difference the promotional videos never showed you. The renders showed snow-covered peaks. The reality is sun-baked rock. The cancellation triggers a chain reaction. If Trojena can't deliver, what does that say about the line? Sindalah? Oxagon? Every NEOM sub-project now faces scrutiny. Investors are demanding independent verification. The line at 1.4%, Sindalah delayed. Oxagon still a render, and now Trojena cancelled. The pattern is unmistakable. Announce, promote, delay, quietly reduce scope, and hope the world forgets. This isn't the first time. King Abdullah Economic City was announced in 2006, planned for 2 million residents. It houses 7,000. The kingdom has a pattern of announcing cities that never materialize. NEOM is the biggest version of a script they've run before. Saudi Arabia has already won the 2034 FIFA World Cup, with stadiums proposed at NEOM sites that don't exist. This is not a construction delay. It is a pattern of announcing projects that cannot be built on the timelines promised. They bid for international events to generate headlines. They commission promotional videos to attract investors. When the deadline arrives and the venue doesn't exist, they pivot and hope the next headline covers the failure. They promised a ski resort in the desert, winter games on a mountain with no snow, and they delivered a concept render. You deserve to know why billions are being spent on promotional material for buildings that may never exist. And the athletes who trained for years to compete at the 2029 Games deserve an honest explanation. Is Trojena a dream deferred or proof that NEOM was never meant to be built? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe now. Trojena is just one cancellation. Wait until you see the 2034 World Cup stadiums.